So before Daydreams, I was actually working on my feature film release, Eyes Without Gaze. And it was more or less like a coincidence that Daydreams got developed out of it, because we had a bunch of material that was analog, experimental, double exposure, which is visually very different from the feature film, Eyes Without Gaze. And it was so beautiful, and the release date of Eyes Without Gaze took much longer than we planned. So yeah, we decided to take the material and already release it as a short film, but a different short film. I think I was interested in film from quite an early age on. It was also a bit of a coping mechanism, because as a neurodivergent person, it was always interesting for me to study people and why they do what they do, and write scripts and try to just understand the world around me better. I really gotten into film maybe 2017 or 16, when my grandma got dementia, and I just felt that need that I had to document things, and I started filming with my camera, and I felt like I had this huge urge of documenting everything around me. For me, Daydreams is an immersive experience of being inside a dream. It's very rich of archetypical symbols and references to folklores, which all deal with the question of how to deal with sexual violence as a society and what would be justice for the victims. But it's all very vague and dreamy. We don't see the sufferance of any victim. We only see this very beautiful romanticized pictures, which still invoke through their heavy symbolism a kind of knowledge that is more subconscious. So for me, it really feels like diving inside of a dream and somehow getting what it's about, but it's not literal. Okay, so actually I already have the script of the next feature film, and it's going to be expensive. I really have to figure out how to find a budget for that one. And the film would be about a non-binary trans person whose life gets connected with a neglected child who's also experiencing some issues around gender, and their destinies kind of get intertwined, and they share this bond of resilience. And the film is about the self-discovery of the trans person, but as a side quest, it also explores the how's it called? The framing of the nuclear family and how it usually gets portrayed, and in my film it would show a different story. You would my first thing was I would ensure a good budget. I think that's probably the first thing a lot of people think about, but then I was I also been part of bigger productions, or not mine but theirs, and in the end it's not necessarily the budget or things you can buy, but the community and the social network that you have around you. Because it doesn't matter how much money you have, life will always happen and things just go the other way. And if you are surrounded by people who can hold that or who can give creative input, you will have a lot of innovative moments. And I think this is really, really important, and also something that I did very often, that whenever something went wrong or somebody quit or something wasn't possible anymore, like just like something would ruin your schedule, I would always have people behind me, and always people who would pull up and like share their capacities and their solutions and problem solving skills. And that was what saved the film, and it made it also something completely else than it was planned to be. But I also had like the feeling that this kind of like gave the film like a moment of life. Like it's not just like an MP4 data file, but it's like something that's really shaped by life and the circumstances. It's very beautiful. In general, making Daydreams, like compared to the rest of the movie, was quite easy because it's so experimental, and we just had one actress. Most of the time we just spent in the forest, which was super close, and we had a car. We had a super small crew. It wasn't like, for film standards, it was such an easy shooting. I think like the biggest challenge then was shooting with analog, because we also did a double exposure. So just like the changing film on set or rolling the film backwards just had like a couple of moments where you work in dirty circumstances, and it has to be very sterile to ensure that the film is loaded right and is not catching light, and like all of these details which are difficult to maintain if you work in a forest, like on the ground with a blanket and a like tiny black box. But we managed pretty well. And one time, oh my God, the magazine opened and the film got exposed to sunlight, which is very bad. But it left like this super beautiful red tint on the film, which in the end, like when it happened, I was really sad. But then I saw the output and I was like, oh my God, that's just amazing. How does this look so good? And it's also something I love about working with analog. It's like you never know how it looks like. And sometimes the mistakes, like they become the most beautiful part of the film. Like we included so much of the beginning of the film where you have like this crazy light plays, and it's so beautiful to watch. My favorite filmmakers. I think a huge inspiration is definitely Lucrezia Martel. I just really love the soundscapes she's using. Also I'd be so interested in her script writing process. I think like the way she introduces a scene is so unconventional. Like a lot of times she just skips opening shots and directly starts with a close-up. And she does this with her sound editing. It's quite special that you still like that she has this, like watching her films it's like riding a wave. It's so beautiful, and it's so emotional in a sense. And I also really love her framing. Like for example in La Mujer Sin Cabeza, it's a story about a woman who has some sort of amnesia and like a dirty secret, or maybe whatever. So what she does in that film is she often shows the protagonist like cut off, like somehow her face is like cut off. And it's so, I really admire this skill of like showing a sort of brutality or violence or something that's grotesque in a way without showing actual violence or like blood. Like it's a much more sophisticated way of packaging. I also really love movies by Bellatar. He mostly works with black and white, and he has one of the most incredible camera people. And yeah, his stories are just so... They are so simple and so magical. It's just incredible. Who else? I really love Vera Chitilova. She's such a revolutionary. She also got in prison for her films. Like, I think that's really art. If you do something that's so challenging for society that it gets you locked up in prison. Plus, her films are just visually and auditorily amazing. Philippe Grandieu, actually. I really love his form. I think he's a huge sexist. Like, if you're sensitive towards violence against women, like, don't watch his films. But the soundscapes he's creating are beyond words. It's crazy. There's one scene in, I think the title in English is The New World, where he cuts, like, a woman gets her hair cut up with a knife, and the sounds are so, they really like just go under your skin and you get goosebumps. And I almost had this feeling like I want to throw up. Like, it was so, like, it was such a bodily experience of watching this scene, even though, like, I mean, it's just cutting hair. It doesn't even, like, have pain or something, but it would touch you so deeply. And also his camera work is just, like, crazy. Like, his work with playing with unfocus and camera movement is just, wow. Like, I really love that. So as I mentioned before, I already have this script laying on my desk. We actually want to film it in analog. So the next steps is finding sponsors who would maybe support us in that. So preferably like Kodak would be amazing, or like just like find possibilities of how we can make this happen. And I just finished my studies and I studied fine arts. I did not study film. And I'm kind of in between worlds a little bit and trying to figure out both, because the art world works super differently from the film world. Like, when I started doing film, I really did not expect that, but it's quite a lot of the times actually upside down. It's so weird. And I think both of the worlds like could like really learn a lot from each other. And I think I need to find a good strategy how to navigate both, because I can't really decide on which side I want to go. So that's definitely a huge step of the plan.